Time to elevate. You're running on empty with Matt and Tony.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Running on Empty. I'm Matt.
And I'm Tony.
And we are running on empty. And we are going to continue our interviews with senatorial candidates in Wisconsin. And today, Tony, why don't you take it away and tell us who we have with us?
Yeah, I'm really fired up today. We're both fired up to have another U.S. Senate candidate with us. And our candidate today is Chantia Lewis. She was first elected to the Milwaukee Common Council in 2016. She has sponsored or co-sponsored more than 300 pieces of legislation while in office. Her website says those efforts have included historic economic development projects, as well as measures to increase transparency in city government. Now, prior to joining the Milwaukee Common Council, Alderwoman Chantia Lewis served in the United States Air Force. So she's a veteran. She also works as a pastor at her local church and has been a board member for 9 to 5, a group that does advocacy work on issues like family and medical leave and equal pay for women. She is also a mother of 3 children, so I think she knows something about the needs of families.
Yeah.
Chantia Lewis, thank you so much for doing this interview with us today. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. This is so cool to be on the show. So I'm just excited.
Well, I don't know who I'm supporting yet in this race. There's a lot of really quality candidates, but I'm really excited about your candidacy. And I'll tell you why. The Democratic Party establishment has been telling us for years that African-American women are the backbone of the party.
Yes.
You seem to be giving that establishment a chance to put up or shut up.
Right? Yes.
So yes. We'll see how they handle your presence in the race. But let's start off with the question we ask all the candidates. Why are you running for the United States Senate?
Oh, so you sort of segued, so I'll start there. I think that it is very important that we highlight that, right? That we don't have an African-American woman in the United States Senate right now. So we're talking about full representation of our America, we don't have full representation, and having one of this and one of that does not suffice. And then when we get down to having none, and it's not just Black women, so we need to look like what our country represents. And so that's one of the main reasons why it's important for this candidacy, for my campaign, to be running full steam, because we not only need Black female representation, but we need someone who understands what service looks like, who understands what it is to be a legislator. Experience matters. Right. It doesn't matter that, you have the means to be able to get yourself out there. Mm-hmm. It matters what you've done up to this point. And as a local elected official, closest to the people, we govern everyday life quality issues. And right. So it's important that you have someone not only who has lived that experience, because I don't come from money. I am a Black female living in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And so that tells a lot of my story right there. But I don't come from money. I don't come from that pedigree. And so it's time out for us to really have our politicians looking a certain way. Right. We need to be reflective of our community. And so it's important, one, that we have representation, but it's important that a person with experience is really occupying that seat and all other seats. And I was thinking the other day, how much of a barrier it was for someone who looks like me to even consider running for office. Because, when I first ran in 2015, I really almost did not run in the aldermanic race because I didn't come from pedigree and I did not have the financial backing. And so that is a hindrance for having everyday people getting involved, not just from the advocacy part, not just from, lobbying and the grassroots efforts, but we need people with experience, lived experience, and the proper tools and voices to be able to craft those legislations that hit us every single day. And what better person to have represent us is someone who knows what it feels like, and
Right.
someone who absolutely can understand that process.
Well, was there one particular issue that provoked you to run for the United States Senate? I mean, you've clearly been having an impact on the Milwaukee Common Council. What was it that made you think, okay, I got to go now to the U.S. Senate?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was a series of events for me that really just kind of swung that pendulum to say, okay, I really have to consider this. One, being a local elected official, I saw firsthand how legislation statewide and federally were negatively impacting us here locally. So our everyday lives being impacted. And I was hopeful that that we would have some turnover in our state legislature, and that we could have some relief for our municipalities, not just Milwaukee, but all of the municipalities that were being held up essentially and not being able to thrive on their own. And so it's really interesting. People don't necessarily understand the structure of how the state essentially holds a thumb over every municipality. We just hand them over our money and we say, give us back enough to maintain our lives. And unfortunately, we never get our fair share. And so, and that's relative, right? So being able to provide for our residents and being able to make sure that people have quality of life is important to me, and it's important to a number of my colleagues. And when we can't have that rational discussion and say, we might need to have an increase. It's been over a decade, and we need to make sure that we can pay for essential services and making sure that we can get our streets paved or redone, or make sure that we can have public safety in the manner that which we need to. It's important that we have those things in place. And so that, in addition to knowing that a number of people that I would lean on as being a great representative for me. So I look at it in multiple ways, right? I look at it as a constituent, as a person who votes, and then I look at it as a person who has to create legislation that impacts our lives. And that was the real decision-making point for me.
Well, the U.S. Senate just had bipartisan support for an infrastructure bill. It's not law yet, it has to go through the House of Representatives. The president has to sign it. But from what you know about that infrastructure bill, would that be a help, or do you think it doesn't go far enough?
Oh, that has been a really tough one, because I am one of those people that believes that infrastructure isn't just hard, that it is soft infrastructure as well. And so while people are playing politics, and we're steady living our lives in an age of COVID where we absolutely need some support, I think we need to get past what we can, but still work towards making sure that, because people don't really understand, right? That infrastructure is roads, bridges, broadband, water. But you can't live your life and go to work if you don't have childcare. You can't live your life and go to work if you can't rely on the basic hierarchy of needs. And so that's where government works, or should work. That is the very impetus behind having government in place, is to make sure that we can have one unified approach to helping the people. And so that's another reason why I'm in this race, because we need to have a unification. We need to make sure that we are taking care of the people that we are sworn to protect and to serve.
Well, one of the big issues in that regard, and we'll have Matt ask it, is Matt, the healthcare question. Why don't you ask about the healthcare?
There's the big call going around now that people talk about Medicare for all or single payer. What is your viewpoint on that, and whatever that happens to be, what does it look like?
Yeah, absolutely. As an African-American woman, I absolutely understand that we need to have a universal Medicare healthcare plan in place, but it has to not only be accessible, it has to be affordable. It is really interesting when you delve into it, that people have multiple experiences when you talk about healthcare, and it shouldn't be better care over here and worse care over here.
Right.
It should be one uniformed experience. And as a Black mother of three, I can tell you I had some really challenging experiences. And to say the least, that my mother, who is a two-time cancer survivor, had not so good care and actually wasn't told that she had one type of cancer, says that we need to have access, but we also need to have good quality access that is affordable, because that really turned our worlds upside down.
Well,
And
would
so
you
I
like
am
to
huge.
would you like to see the private insurance industry removed from healthcare and move toward like a Canadian style single payer system?
I think that we absolutely need to have options. You need to be able to choose who you want to be your provider, to make sure that you're comfortable with that person, because I may not want this type of person. I may want a different gender. I may want a particular proximity. So I want to be able to give people options, but we absolutely need to have something that works for everyone. So I am of the mindset that we need to find what's going to work best for everyone. And it's not my job to tell you who you should have as your doctor, having those intimate conversations. It's my job to provide you access.
Sure. Chantia, the conventional wisdom in Wisconsin is that someone from the city of Milwaukee cannot get elected statewide. So what is your message to Wisconsinites outside of the urban areas?
That is a great question. I've been hearing that often, but I think one of the main components here that I have that most of the other candidates don't, is a background that is way versatile, and then making sure that it transcends. And I liken it to the campaign that I ran for Alder. I have a very diverse group, whether it's socioeconomic, whether it is, just politics, right? Political backgrounds. It is completely different. And just because of the service that I provide to our residents and the background that I have, I was able to gain the trust and the support of so many people that it actually was eye-opening to see how many people actually voted for me and then turn around and voted for other people. But to see that I was someone that they could trust across the board, and taking that message on a grassroots level, which is what we're already doing and what we will continue to do, and really getting out and talking to the people and letting them know that I am someone who is relatable to you because I have very similar backgrounds. People like to, and I liken this to Walker all the time, try to make it a tale of two Wisconsins, where Milwaukee was this whole other entity and it's completely separate, and we didn't have the same issues, when that's not the same at all, right? The reality is we all have broadband issues, whether we are rural or urban. We all have quality of life issues that transcends our geographic location. And so knowing that, and knowing that my background of being from here, born and raised, and coming from, not coming from wealth and not coming from the level of privilege that some may, it's one story that can really resonate with everyone. And so that's what we've been seeing.
Some of your opponents are literally millionaires. Some of them are getting huge amounts of special interest money. How is Chantia Lewis going to compete with that? I mean, running a statewide campaign, as you know, is not an inexpensive thing. So how are you going to compete with that big money that's coming into this race?
We have to do it like we did it the first time. We didn't have the most amount of money, and quite frankly, people were like, "How did you do this with that?" And it is going to be that type of race. And I get it. We want to raise the most amount of money so that we can spread our message wide and far.
Right.
But the reality is, if you don't have access, like most people don't have access to money. You know, my husband is a union carpenter. We are a working class household. So we don't have, and we've got 3 kids, 2 of them in high school and 1 in middle school. So we don't have that kind of wealth to where I can lend my campaign thousands and thousands of dollars. So the way we get this done is through a strong grassroots effort and really just replicating the model from other people like Feingold, like President Obama, and like what we did in the beginning. We didn't raise the same amount of money that others did, and they have that luxury. We don't. What we have is an amazing story that resonates with other people, and just having those conversations and leveraging those networks and those influences to be able to just spread the word, spread the message the best way we can, which is word of mouth.
Yeah.
Well, part of your story is your military service. You're an Air Force veteran, correct?
Yes, 9/11.
9/11. So now I'm sure you've been following what's going on in Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
What is your view on what should be happening there?
Oh, so I will say, because I'm not privy to a lot of the briefings and a lot of the back end stuff. As an elected official, I know firsthand that what's being portrayed in the media isn't the full complete story until it's able. And so I don't have a full comment on that just yet. But I will say that it is something that it's a very delicate balance, right? We want to make sure that our troops are taken care of and that we don't lose another life, whether it is in the Middle East, on both ends. We want to make sure that we protect that we protect lives. And my heart literally goes out to the fact that we have lost so many lives over there, whether they're American or not. And that's a residual effect that military families, and being a veteran, I understand this all too well. Military families have to deal with this for years to come, if not for an entire lifetime. And so that's another reason why that I'm in this race, because we often talk about military and the freedoms that we enjoy, but we don't go far enough to support and protect our veterans once they come home.
But and I think everyone agrees that we need to support those people who've put their lives on the line for this country. And it's been disgraceful how we, have not, lived up to that promise. But having said that, do you believe that the defense budget in this country is simply too large? I mean, you're talking about a lot of rebuilding of the country, urban, rural areas, and our defense budget is larger than it's ever been in history. So would Senator Chantia Lewis fight for some meaningful reductions in the defense budget?
I think we absolutely need to take a look at that and look at, and I think a larger part of that conversation is how much of those dollars are actually going to soldiers.
Right.
How much of that is actually going to infrastructure or people infrastructure? And that is part of the problem. So I definitely would take a step back and make sure that we are allocating dollars properly. I think the budget is way large, and we should be taking care of our service members more than we do anything else. And knowing that, our members aren't taken care of as properly as they need to be, even when they come home after fighting for our freedom. It's one of those issues that is near and dear to my heart. How many people that we have out here that are homeless, that are not getting retrained, that are not getting the proper care, that do not have access to a number of things. This is something that we need to solve. It is a very complex issue, and we need to really tackle that. In addition to making sure that we maintain our our superpower, our quality of life, because we don't want someone coming on our soil and
Mhm.
doing something really crazy, but we want to make sure that we can holistically take care of our country.
Right. Go ahead, Matt.
Absolutely. No, I had a friend a few years ago. He was in one of the served in Iraq a couple times, and his platoon was bombed. He was in the Marines, and he had a traumatic brain injury. They kept him there, and he came back really messed up. And because of how he came back, he wasn't given any benefits or anything.
Mhm.
And he came to visit us, and I saw him have. I've never seen one of these before. It was the scariest thing. I saw him have a PTSD
Yep.
meltdown, and it was the most random thing that caused it.
Mhm.
The coolest part about it, I actually just talked to the officer the other day that responded. She's like, boy, she goes, I know you from somewhere. I'm like, yeah. I said, our friend Justin, and all the police in this area are all veterans. So they know when a situation like this happens, that the guns stay holstered. They're gonna help a brother or sister out. And I'm telling you, this state really, I mean, we definitely have work to do, but I would love to see what, some of the help and things that the veterans are getting here to carry on all the way across the country. And I'm really glad you have that viewpoint, because,
Yeah.
I mean, we unfortunately, we just went to a funeral for a veteran who died of COVID, 37 years old. And
Wow.
it really puts things into perspective. So, I mean, these people sacrificed everything for us.
Yes.
And so let's give them the love, the care, and the respect,
Yeah.
and the help that they deserve. And so thank you for supporting that.
Thank you. And that's but if I could just touch on that really quickly, because that's one of the really important points that you talked about, which is the PTSD and the other issues that veterans come home with. I'm service connected myself. And
Mhm.
so knowing that it is so difficult to get the help that we need when we come home, and then having to fight the stigma of just getting the help without having to, one, lose our jobs,
Right?
or two, being able to get a job coming home.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for my family, I would have been completely left out in the cold.
Wow.
My mother was dealing with cancer second time around,
Mm.
and which is one of the reasons why I got out to come home and to help her and her small business. But because the small business was struggling, I had to literally go and find another job so that I wouldn't have to financially be a part of that burden, but we can maintain the employees that we had.
Mhm.
And the challenge, just trying to get a job and doing what I did in the service, was such a blockage. It was so, one, humiliating that they kept saying, "Oh, you're overqualified. I can't hire you," or being asked the question, "Are you okay?" First and foremost, having this mental health conversation is one that we need to be having.
Absolutely.
Whether you're a veteran or whether you have just been living through this COVID-19. And so that's another reason why I'm running, because we don't talk about, the veteran service, the public safety of our country in the perspective of our people and our
Mhm.
human capital. And so it is so near and dear to my heart that, and this is one of the reasons why our message transcends across
Right.
Milwaukee and across the state and across the country, because this is a conversation that needs to happen. Everyone knows a veteran. Everyone knows someone, whether it's a family friend or a relative, that has had an instance where they have not been properly taken care of. And so as we're talking about, what's happening right now, we need to ask the question, how are our people doing? And how are we protecting them? And so it's a much larger conversation. It's very complex, but it's one that we need to be having at the federal level, because we're not seeing the impact like we should.
Well, and to add insult to injury, the politicians that are not doing the business of the people want to make it more difficult for us to
Yes.
vote.
Yes.
So what is your view on what should be happening with voting rights in this country?
They need to be unencumbered and expanded. And it's something that we need to fight for every single day. And it's really interesting, because my mother is when she was a teenager, she fought for fair housing on as a teenager with Father Rafi here in Milwaukee. So
Oh,
that
wow.
we could expand. So this is where I get my passion from, right? But if she wasn't able to exercise her right and then to instill that in me and making sure that we fight. So that's like the core of who I am, is fighting for people who feel like they don't have a voice themselves, and fighting for folks who feel like it's just not going to do any good. And so making sure that we can expand our voting rights and definitely not creating any more blockages. We absolutely have to work towards that, and then pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act.
Yes.
And to really say that you can't give a person water while standing in line it just blows my mind that in 2021 we are still having this conversation. And so it just brings me back to the things that my mother fought for back in the day, that we're still having these conversations about voter suppression and about, inequalities and disparities. It is insane.
Mm-hmm.
A few years ago, my wife and I went to the Cayman Islands on a vacation, and one day everything was closed. And I'm like, what's going on? They said, oh, it's election day.
I love it.
It's a holiday in Cayman Islands. You will not be working on election day. You've got no excuse to not go out and vote. And I'm like, you know what? If the Cayman Islands could, I understand that they're a small little island and everything, but if somebody else can do it, I think the United States could make election day a holiday.
Absolutely.
And close down, pretty much everything. I mean, just give everybody the chance to vote. I mean, one of the things that's a problem with these this suppression of voting is that they change the voting hours when they know certain demographics can't vote.
Yes.
They're at work or whatever the case is. So if, like the John Lewis Act is amazing, but let's make this a holiday and make it so everybody has unfettered equal access to voting.
And absolutely, because it's really insane to me to see that people don't even know that they can take off of work. Yeah. So we need to have, again, a uniformed approach to this, and not just for those major elections like presidential and U.S. Senate.
Right.
All voting days need to be a federal holiday, because it's those local municipal, it's those judicial, it's those school boards that impact us the most. And so we need to do what we can to ensure that people can get engaged as much as possible, and then really understanding the reason people fought, bled, and died for the right to vote.
Yeah.
I think, especially for local elections, a lot of people, you don't get huge turnouts, but this is where a lot of the policies and a lot of what affects your everyday life. And you understand that. Yeah. So, yeah. Wow. Yeah. Let's can you get behind election days being holidays?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah. I would support that. Definitely.
All right.
Chantia, we're getting close to the end of our time here.
Already?
Yeah. What is your main pitch? I mean, if you just give us a statement as to why there's so many qualified candidates that are going to be in that primary, which is on about a year from now, right? August of 2022. And are you going to stay in this for the long haul? You're planning on staying in this until you're in it. All right.
Yes.
And so what is your main pitch to Wisconsinites as to why they should support Chantia Lewis in that Democratic Party primary?
Yes. I would say first and foremost that it is important who represents you. It is absolutely, as we saw in our current elected official who is holding this seat, whether it's holding up stimulus payments, which is something that we've been working on here in Milwaukee. And I'm so excited to be able to have passed a universal guaranteed income, and we will be launching that soon. But knowing that in a moment of history where doing something that is a little bit unconventional, but doing something to ensure that people can live, doing something to ensure that people are safe, doing something to ensure that our children have access to safe and quality education. And in this moment, we have someone who is playing politics. And that does not sit well with me. And so I am in this race because I am from Wisconsin. I am born and raised here. I understand exactly what the needs of the people are on both sides. Being one of those minority people who did not have access and who had to struggle to fight to get to just to a place of stability, had to raise children in the middle of a pandemic with very little resources, where we were down to one income, because guess what? My husband was furloughed during those 3 months of the shutdown. So it was not something that I sat comfortably and really tried to, just understand what people were dealing with. We were dealing with it too. So if it's important to have someone with those same background, with the same experiences, so that we can take those lived experiences and create legislation that will not have a negative trickle-down effect, that will literally do what it is supposed to do, and that is help the people of Wisconsin. And so a vote for me, support for me, says that you can get behind someone who truly understands what you're dealing with, whether it's rural or whether it's urban, knowing that our issues are our issues.
Right.
There is no separation of that. And so getting behind my candidacy for U.S. Senate means that you can get someone, one, with experience. Having 6 years of legislative experience is important. I didn't just get here. I've been reelected because the community that I serve understands that I do it for the people. This isn't an opportunity for me. This isn't because I saw something that could elevate my name or elevate my position. This is literally about service for me.
Right.
And I know that I can do the job, and I can do the job well.
Well, where can our listeners go to find more information about you?
They can log into any platform, Chantia Lewis, the number 4 Senate.com. That's CHANT as in Tom, IALEWIS, the number 4 Senate.com. And you can check me out on all platforms. I'm on all social media platforms. But I will say, take a look, get engaged. No matter who, I hope it's me, but no matter who you are supporting, we have to do what we can to get Ron Johnson out of that seat, because we deserve better. And Wisconsin, I know even those who may have supported him in the past, he is not what you supported before. He is completely different now, and we deserve better. And I wholeheartedly believe that I am the candidate to run and to beat Ron Johnson.
Well, we want to thank you for taking the time to be with us. And as this campaign goes on, we hope you will come back again.
Absolutely.
Maybe give us an update in a few months. Like I said, I'm really fired up about your candidacy. I don't know who I'm supporting.
Thank you.
Right. But again, I'm tired of the Democratic Party telling me that people of color, especially women, are the backbone of our party. But then I don't see them out there recruiting women of color to run.
No.
Right. So you're giving the Democratic Party an opportunity to walk the walk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. Right. It's going to be really fascinating when you start debating the other candidates. I'm going to be real.
I can't wait to see that. That's going to be awesome. I am really stoked to see that.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty exciting. So once again, thank you for being here, and we hope to talk to you again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This was a blast.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Tony, another fantastic interview. I was blown away by Chantia Lewis here.
Yeah, she's really inspiring, and obviously she's running an underdog candidacy right now. I mean, there's candidates that are much better financed, much better known. So she's definitely running a long shot candidacy. I was impressed by the fact that she said she's in it for the long haul.
Yes.
She's not planning on dropping out. So as you know, politics is not really a sprint. Politics is a marathon. So anything can happen but if I were advising her campaign, I would probably say, you do have to find a way to get your name out to every corner of the state. And that's obviously easier said than done.
Especially to a lot of the smaller and underserved communities. that may not necessarily pay attention or know.
Well, see, that's the thing. I mean, think about how many unemployed, struggling farmers there are in northern Wisconsin
Mhm.
whose interests are exactly what she described.
Exactly.
And yet they've been taught, oh, I can never vote for an African-American woman from Milwaukee. Right. That's why it's so important that some kind of productive conversation take place.
Yeah. And
that people start to realize that their interests are the same.
Yeah, well, but she knows, she knows the big media interests, but then the stuff that actually matters to real people in
Right.
real lives and real jobs. I love her statement that she's doing this not to be a career politician. Yeah, she's in it for the long haul, but she's doing it to help people.
Yeah.
And we need more politicians like her that understand that this is a service for the people, and she gets that. Especially being, an alderperson down in Milwaukee, she totally gets that. I mean, she's been in the trenches and literally been in the trenches with her military service. So
absolutely.
This is somebody who I don't understand why people vote for the folks with the money, because those people really don't represent the majority of folks. Again, the money is the 1% or, whatever it is. And the rest of us sit down here, that's not the 1%. So why would we logically vote for somebody with a lot of money versus somebody who is actually looking out for us? The logic would say you vote for the person who's actually going to do the job, not just because they have a lot of money.
Well, politics is name recognition. And, my guess is most voters, when they go in the booth, they don't say I'm voting for the person with money.
Right.
They're saying I'm voting for the person whose name I know.
Right. But the money gets them that recognition.
The money gets you there. And, it's only like wonks like you and me that'll go out and do the research and find out who are all the candidates running. Right.
Yeah.
Hopefully more people will do that. So again, real great show, Matt. And as always, let's hope that everyone stays elevated.
Stay elevated, everybody. We'll see you next time. Take care.
You're running on empty with Matt and Tony.